Welcome back. Today, we're diving into a grammar concept that, let's be honest, kind of trips up almost everyone, from students to total pros. We're talking about demystifying the active and passive voices. In this explainer, we're going to take a super simple theory-to-practice approach. We'll look at what these voices actually are, how they work under the hood, and how you can totally master them. Let's get into it. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First up, defining active and passive. Then, spotting the difference. Third, the basic voice formulas. Fourth, practice sentence conversion. And finally, a quick recap to lock it all in.
Section 1. Defining active and passive.
All right, before we get bogged down in any grammar rules, I actually want you to think of every sentence like a tiny crime scene. You're the detective, right? And when you look at a sentence, your main job is to ask who is doing the action, who is the actor, and who is receiving the action. Figuring that out is literally the key to understanding grammatical voice.
Let's look at the active voice first. So, the active voice is a sentence structure where the grammatical subject performs the action of the verb. In other words, your subject is your actor or your agent. When you use the active voice, the person or the thing doing the action is front and center. This gives you sentences that are incredibly direct, super clear, and just full of momentum. It's honestly the default choice for strong storytelling because, well, it leaves zero ambiguity about who's responsible for what's happening.
But now, let's flip the script. The passive voice is a sentence structure where the subject receives the action of the verb. Imagine you're filming a movie, and the camera suddenly pans away from the person throwing a baseball and zooms right in to focus entirely on the ball itself. That is the passive voice. The action is happening to the subject. This is super helpful when the result of the action is way more important than who actually did it, or maybe when the doer is completely unknown or just irrelevant.
Moving on to Section 2, spotting the difference. And this brilliantly illustrates that shift in focus we just talked about. On the left, we've got our active sentence, Ali writes a letter. The subject is Ali, and he's actively performing the verb, writes, right onto the object, a letter. Simple, straightforward. But now look at the right. The passive version is, a letter is written by Ali. You see what happened there? The object from that first sentence, a letter, got a promotion. It's now the grammatical subject, just passively sitting there receiving the action of being written. And our original actor, Ali, he got pushed all the way to the end of the sentence into a prepositional phrase.
Notice how the subject and object physically trade places here. In the active structure up top, the flow is just subject, then verb, then object. But in the passive structure below, the object jumps to the very front, followed by a totally new verb structure, and ending with by plus the subject. This little crisscross movement, that is the fundamental architecture of the voice flip.
All right, Section 3, the basic voice formulas.
Okay, so if we treat sentence structure like a basic math equation, the active voice formula is a breeze. Subject plus verb plus object. Boom, done. But check out the passive voice formula. It's the object plus a be verb plus V3, which just stands for the past participle form of the main verb, plus the word by plus the subject. The absolute non-negotiable rule here is that a passive voice sentence always requires a conjugated form of the to-be verb, like is, was, or has been, paired directly with that V3 past participle of your main verb.
So, to put that math formula into practice, you really just need this simple four-step trick. Some people call it the rule of swapping. Think of it like a neat little magic trick. Step 1, swap your subject and your object. Step 2, add the right to-be verb that matches your sentence's tense. Step 3, change your main verb into its past participle, or V3 form. And Step 4, just toss the word by right before the original active subject at the end of the sentence.
Section 4. Practice sentence conversion.
Now, what's really fun is we're going to step onto the construction site and actually build some sentences using the rules we just learned. Here is your first challenge. I want you to convert this active sentence into a passive one. Dad washed the car. Go ahead, pause this explainer for a second if you need to, and use those 4 steps. Swap the subject on object, add your be verb, change to V3, and add by. What do you get?
Okay, let's see how you did. The correct passive sentence is, the car was washed by Dad. Let's check the math on that. The object, the car, moved to the front to become our new subject. Check. We added the be verb, was, because the original action happened in the past tense. Check. The main verb, washed, stays exactly as washed because, conveniently, that's also its past participle form. And finally, we tacked on by Dad at the end to show who actually did it. Perfect! All right, let's keep this rapid-fire energy going. Here is another one for you. The vet rescued the swan. Same deal. Find your actor, find your receiver, and flip them using the formula. And the solution is, the swan was rescued by the vet. Awesome job if you got that one right. You successfully swapped the subject, the vet, with the object, the swan. You matched the past tense by tossing in was, you correctly applied the V3 rule for rescued, and you linked up the original actor with that preposition by. You're nailing this.
Okay, let's shake things up for this last practice round. I actually want you to reverse the formula. Take this passive sentence and turn it back into an active one. The delicious meal was cooked by my uncle. So who is really doing the action here? I want you to put them back in the driver's seat.
Got it? The active version is, my uncle cooked the delicious meal. See, in that passive sentence, our agent, my uncle, was kind of hiding out at the end in that by phrase. But by switching it back to active voice, we let him reclaim his rightful spot right at the front as the driving subject of the sentence. And notice how it instantly makes the whole statement punchier and way more direct.
Finally, Section 5, a quick recap.
So, the crucial point I want you to take away from all this is simple. In the active voice, the subject acts. In the passive voice, the subject receives the action. To convert between the two, just use that swapping formula. Trade the subject and object, make sure you've got a be verb plus a V3 verb, and follow it up with by. Look, the active voice should generally be your go-to default, mostly because it's so clear and direct. But don't count the passive voice out. It has true strategic storytelling power when you really need to emphasize a result, or when you just don't know who did the action.
Which leaves us with this final question to chew on. How will you deliberately choose your voice to shift perspective in your next piece of writing? You see, grammar isn't just a boring set of arbitrary rules. It's a toolkit. I want to challenge you to stop relying purely on instinct and start using active and passive sentence structures as intentional, powerful tools to guide your reader's focus exactly where you want it. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.